Grab your drinks and have a seat. It's time for serial killers.
Hello.
Hello.
We're here.
Yep. And what are we here to do?
Well, I'm T.
Oh, we're here to introduce ourselves.
Yeah.
I'm Jay.
And we are here to tell you about
Serial
killers.
killers.
And a little bit of what we're drinking.
Which I am drinking a Schmarbucks
Me too.
Americano.
Me too.
But with my
Jay
dairy-free.
No.
What, you want me to say lactate?
Yes,
I
sir.
hate the name of it.
Yes,
but
sir.
it is dairy-free creamer.
It is lactate
because
creamer.
I will shit myself.
Yeah, he's
with
got a
dairy
little bit of a
creamer.
lactose intolerance issue. And I am also drinking an iced Americano from the Schmarbucks. And the reason we are drinking these is because we are moving tomorrow.
Very early.
Officially, we are moving tomorrow. And so, it's just easier to just kind of get things that you're not having to.
Just packing stuff
away.
away.
Our Nespresso machine is packed away. Now we could have used our daughter's, but why when we're just trying to get our shit together?
Mm-hmm.
My Americano is an iced Americano, blonde espresso. We don't do the regular espresso. That shit gives me acid reflux. Blonde espresso with 1 stevia and coconut creamer. No lie, that's my second coffee today, though.
Yeah, I'm
drinking
still
one
working
now.
on my first one, but it's a big
I
one.
am.
It's
See,
a
here
big
we
one.
go.
Yeah.
That's my iced coffee.
Now, before we get into who we're talking about today, there's something I just wanted to mention. Because we talk a lot about when we talk about these things, we're like, haha, you got what you deserve and karma and this, that, and the other, right? I've recently read a story that is like the definition of karma. Now, it's not a great story because, yeah, somebody was murdered. But at the end of the day, karma reared its head and bit this MFer in the butt. And what I'm talking about, if you haven't heard or read about it, is a gentleman strangled his girlfriend and then drug her out into the forest to discard her body. And while he was dragging her out into the forest, because he was exerting himself, died of a heart attack.
Really?
As he should. So karma got his ass quick.
Karma normally doesn't come that fast.
Yeah,
so
it's been
bravo.
going across my news feed, and I was just like, good.
Yeah, good for karma.
Jackass.
Karma 1, dude 0.
Yep.
Well, this episode is not going to be crazy long because it's just one of those ones that you don't have a lot of information on, which is so incredibly frustrating, but also okay.
We'll try to drag it out a little bit for you.
Well, it'll be a good enough episode. It'll be fine, but that's about it. Do you want to know who we're talking about this week?
Yep, that's why we're here.
Okay, so this week we are talking about a man named Bandali Debs. Now, Bandali has 4 victims. Murder dates are 1995, 97, and 98. His location of murders, Victoria, Australia.
I always try to, when you say the dates, I always try to, think back in my memory if they were dates while I was alive and try to be like, did I hear about this? Did I know about this? Did I recall
You
this?
probably wouldn't have because this is Australia.
This one probably not, but I've tried to do that with other ones. And there's been times where it's like you have a serial killer that's killed quite a lot of people.
Yep.
And I'm like, yeah, I had no clue. And it's while I was alive. I was
Yep.
like, they'd never heard of that.
I've heard of quite a few of them when I go to do them, but I think it's
Well,
just
that's
because I've
'cause
been
you're creepy.
interested in true crime since I was a young
Yeah.
person. So his method of murder is shooting, and the characteristics of his murder are robbery. So here's the background on Bandali. Not very much is known about Bandali's life. And I mean his whole ass life. I'm not talking about just childhood. I'm talking about literally you can find hardly anything out about him at all. So all I can tell you is that he was born July 18th, 1953. And he was actually born named Edmund Plancis at the time. So I don't know when. Well, I do know. I guess I should say I read a couple of articles that did say that he changed his name to Bandali after he was put into a foster home, and the foster parent that really took care of him was named Bandali. So that's Bandali Michael Debs or something. And so he kind of took that name under. The other thing is Bandali doesn't talk and has never talked about his childhood. Ever. Like, he's been asked questions about his childhood. He avoids the conversation, doesn't want to have the conversation, doesn't talk about it. It was reported, though, that at one point he had a brother, and his brother actually claims that they were tortured as children. And there's really no way to prove that this claim is true. However, in my experience and through the research I've done, when someone is not willing to talk about their childhood, there is a reason. And a lot of the times that reason is because it was an unhappy one, whether it's from abuse, shame, neglect, a lot of trauma. So I would tend to believe that there's probably a really good chance that they suffered abuse in their household growing up, and Bandali will not talk about it. And his older brother, or not, I can't say older, I'm sorry. His brother is willing to basically say, like, no, we were tortured as children, but doesn't go into detail. I would just really, truly, even though he is a serial killer, I would still tend to believe that he had a fucked up childhood.
Yeah. I think the percentages lean towards
because
childhood.
The only other time that I've ever experienced somebody not wanting to talk about their childhood is somebody like my son, who is like, I don't remember who's 20 fucking 2 years old. I don't remember my childhood, but he does in certain scenarios. But it's like people that have, well, my son has ADHD, and I think that's part of his problem is, his brain just doesn't want to calm down enough to really think about it. But that's about the only time. And it's not that he won't talk about it. It's just, he's like, yeah, I don't really remember that. Or, oh, wait, no, I do remember that. People who just flat out refuse, either they don't remember, because our brains are brilliant things that like to block out really bad experiences. So you just might not remember it. But again, it's not normal to not remember your childhood. Typically, when you don't remember things, it is because you went through some sort of trauma that your brain is blocking out. Like I said, unless you are one of those outliers that maybe has some sort of a disorder that makes you short-term, long-term memory issues. But overall, when you have traumatic experiences, our brains tend to protect us. And so either you don't remember it, or you don't want to talk about it because it fucking makes you mad, or it's too traumatic or hurtful to talk about it. So I don't know any person in this world that's like, I had the best childhood in the world, but I will tell you nothing about it.
Right.
So take that for what it is. I can also tell you that Bandali grew up in Narwarren, which is a southeastern suburb of Melbourne, Australia. And I can tell you that later in his life, he became a tiler, like a person who does tiles, like for bathrooms and kitchens and stuff.
Tiler.
And at some point, he became the father to 5 children. But that is all I can tell you about him.
Well, I mean, we can tell you more about him, and that's what
I can only tell you about the murders. That's what we're ready to jump into. April 22nd, 1995. The body of Donna Hicks is found on a roadside in Minchinbury, West Sydney. Her body is discovered naked, and she had been killed by a gunshot to the head. Now, Donna Hicks was known to be a prostitute working the Great Western Highway during this time. And that's kind of, I personally, as always, think that has a little bit to do with maybe why things didn't happen the way they should in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Now, she was last seen alive drinking at the Colyton Hotel, and then she was seen getting into a 4-wheel drive vehicle with another person. Now, at the time, after they found her body, no arrests were made, and I don't even think they had any suspects at all. They were just kind of like, another one bites the dust type thing, right? And it goes cold. The case goes cold. Then on June 17th, 1997, so we're talking 2 years later, Christy Mary Hardy, she's also working as a prostitute at this time, along the Princess Highway. And she meets Bandali, and they drive to a secluded bush track in the upper Beaconsfield. They do the business, and Bandali proceeds to shoot her in the head, killing her. Her body is found later by some people who were passing by through the bush area. And again, at this time, this case also goes unsolved. They do not have any suspects. And again, I can't help but wonder if this is the same type of thing that we see all the times where it's like, oh, it's a prostitute that's dead, even though it's by gunshot. So it's not like, oh, they drug overdose, I think it's like in their brain, they're like,
but how much effort do we want to put
right,
into
how much
this?
effort do we want to put into somebody who is a prostitute when, this is just maybe might be an effect of the business, fuck around, find out type of scenario is what I kind of feel like may have been happening. Again, I literally could be wrong. I'm not jumping to the conclusion of automatically they did not look into this. I'm not saying that.
Again, percentages.
It's the thing is that everything
seen
we've
it
ever
100
done,
times.
with
Yeah.
prostitution, it always takes them longer to really dig in. However, these were gunshots. A lot of the times they dismiss the prostitutes who die of like drug overdose or strangulation because they think they died of drug overdose
Right.
or whatever. There's a very good potential that the reason they didn't do anything is because they just didn't have a lot of evidence to go on. Like that's also an option. Just keep that in mind. So again, this case goes cold. There's nothing it's unsolved. Nobody knows. Moving on. Now on August 16th, 1998, so now we're a year later, Victoria police officers, Sergeant Gary Silk, who is 34, and Senior Constable Rodney Miller, who is 35, they were staking out the Silky Emperor restaurant. Now, this is part of what it was called Operation Hamada. What they were doing is they were investigating and staking out potential targets for a series of armed robberies that had been happening over the last 7 years. There had been about 10 robberies committed to these specific restaurants, armed robberies over the last 7 years. So they had created a whole task force and they would stake out potential targets of what they felt was going to be hit next, trying to catch these people who were doing these robberies. Now, the officers drive to the restaurant and they stake it out a little after 10:50 p.m., which the restaurant is now closed by that time. And so when they get there, they're in an unmarked cop car. There's another unmarked cop car there as well. They kind of talk to the police officers. And at about 11 p.m., Sergeant Silk and Constable Miller, they take up their position in an underground parking lot next to the restaurant. So like a parking garage, right? So they go park down there, but they can see the restaurant from where they're at, right? And then the other police officers are like on the other side of the restaurant, right? So they've got a couple people staking this place out. At 11:28 p.m., they report seeing a dark blue Honda Civic pulling into the garage. But it seemed like as soon as the Honda spotted that car, their car, it reversed and left at a really high rate of speed. So they were like, what the fuck? So they take off after this car. It leads to a very brief chase. They end up losing the car and they're like, fuck it. Okay, we'll go back. So they go back to the parking garage to continue their stakeout. And at about 12:08 a.m., another car pulls into the parking garage. Now, this one was seen pulling in and out of the parking area multiple times. Like they pull in, park, back up, move somewhere else. And that's very fucking suspicious.
Right.
So this prompts the police officers to follow the car and pull it over. Rodney Miller stays between the vehicle and the police car, and Sergeant Silk approaches the passenger side of the vehicle. Now, he asks the driver for his credentials, to which the driver of the vehicle shows him a revolver, proceeds to shoot Gary Silk through the passenger window. Gary is hit in the chest and the pelvic area, falls to the ground. Now, Rodney is behind the car, immediately draws his weapon and fires at the car. Now, the driver or someone in the vehicle returns shots at Rodney through the back window of this vehicle. The second shot that comes from the vehicle hits Rodney under the left arm and exits through his hip. So that's like a
bounced
right?
around probably, low caliber gun.
Now at this point, the gunman then gets out of the car, walks around over to where Gary Silk is laying on the ground and fires a third shot into his head, killing Gary instantly. Then the car speeds off. Now the other police, there was other people there, hear the gunshots over their two-way radio and respond to the scene. And they find Gary Silk is dead and Rodney Miller is missing. Rodney had actually managed to walk back to the restaurant that they were surveilling. The one who got shot from the armpit to the hip.
Yeah.
He had managed to get up and walk back to the restaurant, and he ends up collapsing outside of the restaurant, and a different set of police officers find him. He's still alive, and they get an ambulance to him, and as he's getting taken away, he's telling the officers that Gary and I were shot by two gunmen. There were two gunmen. They were in a car. He's like telling them what he can. Rodney is then taken to the hospital where he ends up dying from his injuries. So these became known as the Silk Miller murders, also known as the Morabin police murders. So this was a big thing. So as you would assume, these murders are now taken very seriously and investigated very thoroughly because they killed cops. So they create a team and a task force and name it Operation Lorimer. Now, there was a $500,000 reward offered for information about the murders. They start really picking apart the scene of the crime. They find broken glass, which they took to test. They actually discover that this glass matches a late model Hyundai hatchback vehicle. They were also able to recover 3 of the 4 bullet casings that Rodney had shot at the vehicle. So he ended up, after he got hit, he shot a total of 4 shots towards the vehicle. They only were able to find 3 of the 4 bullet casings, which led them to believe that the 4th bullet casing would be found in the killer's car.
Right.
They also discovered from the bullet casings the killers had left that there was 2 guns that were used, which then further makes you believe that there are 2 shooters. And they were able to match the bullet casings that they found to those that they had found at the scene of the robberies that they had been investigating. So now they're realizing that, okay, hold on. We have the people who killed our officers are the people we've been looking for anyways. They take all this information and they start to search and find things out. They are eventually able to narrow down the results even more to a specific make and model of the vehicle, which they scour and again, it's the 90s, so I don't know, maybe good old detective work at this point. It ends up leading the police through a lot of, again, good old detective work to a vehicle registered to a woman who happened to be the daughter of a man named Bandali Debs. So on September 24th, 2001, Bandali Debs and a man named Jason Roberts, they are arrested and they faced criminal charges in the murder of Gary Silk and Rodney Miller. There were also 13 other charges related to armed robberies that they were facing. On February 23rd of 2003, both Bandali and Jason were found guilty of the murders and sentenced to life in prison. Now, on June 23rd of 2020, Jason appealed his conviction and a retrial was granted for him. And this was based on evidence tampering by the police. They had found that one of the officers had gone in and basically changed a statement that was made and recanted and switched it in the evidence. His retrial was held over a few months, and July 11th, 2022, Jason was found not guilty of the 2 murder charges, and he was released from jail at the time.
Interesting.
Now, he is still due to face charges for the armed robbery charges because he is still being charged with those, and he actually has admitted that he did partake in the robbery charges. So he is probably going to be in jail, or not jail. He's probably going to see... he's going to go to trial for those. The problem is 2003 to 2022. 2003 to 2022. You're talking like 19 years. So if they want to look at him and go, well, you're going to serve 20 years in prison, they're probably not going to have him go to prison.
Right.
They'll consider his time served because he said that he didn't kill anybody for the murders. Now, Bandali was sentenced in 2003 to 2 terms of life imprisonment for the murders of the police officers. Now, as Bandali sits in jail, they're still investigating crimes as we see. And as they're doing these different things and looking over crimes, they look back into the murder of Christy Mary Hardy. Now, in 2007, they were able to match DNA from semen that was found on Christy to that of Bandali. So they are able to now bring a charge of murder for Christy against Bandali. So in May of 2007, he is found guilty of the murder of Christy, and he receives another life sentence. Then on September 30th of 2008, another new murder charge was brought to light again for Bandali. And this was the murder of Donna Hicks. Now, again, through DNA analysis, he was linked to the case of Donna Hicks. He is charged with her murder, and he is found guilty once again for the murder of Donna Hicks as well. And he is given his 4th life term sentence.
See, and I wasn't thinking that they were going to get him with DNA. I thought they were going to use the shell casings because he had shot both of the girls in the head.
Well, and that's the thing is because the murders happened in 95 and 97, DNA was not as big of a deal, but 2007, 2008, right. They're re-looking at cases, which also tells me that they didn't just let it go. because if they just let it go, they would have never done anything, right? And so that's why, to me, I was like, well, maybe they just didn't have enough evidence at the time, because in 97 they didn't have a ton of DNA opportunities, and so, but they obviously swabbed and kept DNA to be able to link him to him. So I guess good. Now, Bandali is still serving time today, and for the foreseeable future, he will most likely never get out due to his crimes and due to the fact that he's serving 4 life-term sentences to be served, by the way, consecutively, not concurrently.
Yeah, I like that word.
So that is the story of Bandali Debs. I do have some shots. I don't have a ton. I told you, there's not a lot of information, but I do have some shots.
You know, it just makes me think, too, because, like, the other guy got found not guilty of the murders, but it was obvious 2 guns were used. So what are they saying? Bandali used 2 guns? One in each hand?
I'm going to be honest with you. I read a bunch of stuff about it, and I can't quite figure out why he got to walk away from the murders. I don't. Because all of the evidence pointed to 2. Actually, I that's a lie. I do know. So he has an alibi. The Jason guy has an alibi for that specific night when this happened.
Okay, so there was somebody else in the car then.
I don't know if I believe the alibi. I'll get to that.
All right, let's get into your shots.
Okay. So during Operation Lorimer, again, this is when they were trying to find out who killed the police officers. They were so determined to find out who killed their fellow officers that they took that glass that they found at the crime scene and they brought it to the factory in South Korea, the Hyundai factory in South Korea, to find out the make and model of that car. So they flew their asses to South Korea, brought in these chunks and said, match this. Tell us any vehicle that could have possibly had this. And that's how they were able to actually narrow down exactly the make and model.
Well, of course, because police officers were killed. So
exactly.
Which I get on one side, but on the other side, like, treat every murder like that.
I agree. I agree. Now, Jason Roberts. Jason Roberts, how did he come into this picture, right? Well, he was the boyfriend of Bandali Debs' daughter at the time of the murders. And here's why I don't necessarily believe his alibi. So he said that he was not there.
Because the daughter gave him the alibi?
Yes.
Yeah.
So he said that he was not there. And Bandali's daughter is the one who said, no, he was with me that night. So that's his alibi.
Of course.
And so take that for what you will, because it just, you'll see. I'll get more into it. During the sentencing for the murder of Christy Hardy. Okay, so when Bandali was getting sentenced for murdering Christy Hardy, the judge had this specific thing to say, and I quote, "Your murder of Miss Hardy was entirely senseless and needless. The evidence discloses beyond any doubt that this was not a case of a sexual encounter in which, in the heat of the moment, feelings or passions may have led to a spontaneous and irrational act of violence. Rather, and quite to the contrary, this was most clearly a callous, craven, and senseless murder in cold blood of an entirely innocent, defenseless, and vulnerable young woman. The evidence leads to the inevitable conclusion that you murdered Christy Hardy for no other reason than for the sheer sake of it." So he basically said, listen, I'm going to give you every fucking little bit of shit that I can because you literally killed this woman for no reason. You paid her to do a job. She did it, and then you killed her anyways.
Yep,
there is nothing about this that would have made it like you literally killed her just to kill her.
You went there going,
I'm going to kill her.
To get what I want and then kill her.
Yeah. Okay, so during the retrial of Jason Roberts, here's why I'm telling you I don't necessarily believe all this, and it's weird that he was let go. Bandali testified against him. And Bandali said that he wasn't the one who shot Gary Silk. So Bandali was like, I didn't kill Gary Silk. And then he also admitted during this trial, he did also, because he was asked by the attorneys like about his past, they asked him if he had killed Donna Hicks. And he said, yes, I did. So he admitted to killing Donna Hicks. So his whole point was, I did kill her. I did shoot and kill Rodney. I did not kill Gary Silk. So then they asked him, well, did you see Jason Roberts kill Gary? And he said, I did not physically see him kill him. He said, but he was in the car with me. I gave him a loaded gun before we went, because he said they were going to go rob this restaurant. And he said, I gave him a loaded gun before we went to the restaurant. He had a loaded gun on him. And he said, when we got pulled over, I got out of the car and I went to go talk to Rodney because he was at the back of the car. And I told him that I would show him what's in my trunk. And he said, so I opened, he said boot, but he said, I opened up my trunk. He said, and I shot him with my hand in my pocket and my gun in my pocket. I shot him through my coat, basically. And he said, then all of a sudden I heard gunshots from the other side of the car and Gary Silk's on the ground. And Jason was the only one in the car with me. And then Jason's girlfriend says, well, he was with me the whole time. So how's that possible?
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure why that didn't equate to what it was. So take that for what you will. And like I said, Jason is still going to go to trial for the robberies because he still has 13 charges of robbery that he has to be retried for because he was found guilty of everything. So he still has to be found or retried for the robberies. But he did say, like, no, I did do the robberies, but I wasn't there that night. The other thing is, I just wanted to point this out because it was kind of interesting. The attorneys, the defense attorneys were asking Bandali, so you gave him a loaded weapon that night that you guys were going to rob this restaurant? He was like, yes. And he goes, well, why would you give him a loaded gun? And he said, well, I think it'd be kind of silly to go rob somebody without a loaded gun.
I mean, facts.
I was like, listen, that's fair. That's fair. Now, during his time in prison, Bandali is actually participating in psychology sessions. He has done computer training and life skills program. My guess is so that if he ever gets out of prison.
Yeah.
He's also a carpet cleaner for the prison, so he's working. However, it has been repeatedly stated that he will not be eligible for parole, regardless of how good his behavior is, because of the brutality of his crimes and the premeditation. And let's be really fucking clear about this. I really think it's because he killed police officers.
100%.
I would venture to guess that if the two officers had not been killed, there would be a chance for parole for him. That's my honest opinion. And I know it's unfair. And I'm sure people are going to come at me and be like, you don't know that. I don't know that. But I just
we
know
can make an assumption and share our opinion.
In the history of all the things that I've researched, the ones that kill cops always have the worst sentence.
Yep.
And they will nail that motherfucker down. And that's what I personally believe. However, I do find it interesting that they didn't nail down the Jason guy. Like the fact that he was
like they were okay with one.
Yeah, or maybe there just wasn't enough evidence, because if all you have is Bandali's account, I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure. It's not helpful that one of the police officers tampered with the evidence to make it the case the way it is. So It's just it's a strange thing. But we must also remember that Rodney told the police officers before he got in the ambulance and died that there were two shooters. So like you said, there had to be two people in that car. Maybe it wasn't Jason, but why would Bandali say it was Jason? He's in jail for life. He doesn't give a fuck.
Right. And that's what my point
weird.
was like the two people in the car came from the cop, not anybody else. So it's like, what are you going to be like? Well, he was delirious because he got shot. Like,
well, and then on top of it, to have three different bullet casings, like that tells you that there was definitely a second shooter, but whatever. Now, there are beliefs that there are more victims that just have never been connected to Bandali, which would make total sense because it's when you really look at it, he was killing and robbing. That's what he was doing. And he went 2 years and then 1 year. And so it's like, yeah, I definitely feel like there's probably women out there that have been found that are prostitutes, that have been found that have been shot, and they just can't link him through DNA or whatever. Now, we don't do this very often, but I get to end this on a semi-positive note.
Well.
So to end this on a semi-positive note, Australian rules football club St Kilda and Hawthorn, they play for the Blue Ribbon Cup, and this started in 1999. Now, what the Blue Ribbon Cup is it's a trophy. It's a game, a match, where it's dedicated to officers that have died on duty.
I was thinking that because of blue.
Yeah. And at that specific match, I want to say match. And when I say football, I am not talking soccer. It's
No,
not soccer.
You're right. It's a match.
But I also kind of think it's not like crazy enough to be actual like American football. I saw a picture of it. It literally makes me think it's like a mixture of rugby and football.
Interesting.
I'm not really sure. It is spelled football, like American football. And it did say in the instructions on what it was that you get to score points, 6 points. You get to go for the extra point. So it's very football-esque. But when I saw the picture, the football they use kind of looks like a rugby ball. So I'm not really quite sure. I didn't know that Australia had actual like American football because American football has always just been like American football. But anyways, they have this. So I call it a match because I know in rugby it's a match. So that's what I'm calling it. I know that I understand that it might not be rugby, but it's not exactly what I know to be football, but whatever. So they started this Blue Ribbon Cup in 1999. They dedicate this Blue Ribbon Cup match to the police officers who have died on duty. Any police officers, that right? But during that match, they have a Silk Miller medal that is given to the best player for that day, for that match. And that is in memory of Sergeant Gary Silk and Constable Rodney Miller. So they're able to continue to have their legacies live on.
Yeah, that's nice.
So that's kind of cool. It's never cool when you're like, "Ooh, we can do a memory type thing," but
yeah, but it's better than doing nothing.
You're able to see that they took something that was super, super terrible and turned it into something that maybe not so terrible, or at least you could have memories of it. Anyways, that's all I got. I told you there was not a lot of information at all, so I can't even look at you, Jay, and be like, oh, I totally understand why he did this. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I said, there were claims of being tortured when he was a kid. And so, sure, I can honestly say that, again, he's one of those people that he's a serial killer by definition, but I genuinely think he killed people just because he was robbing them and they died. So like with both of the women that he killed, I think he killed them because he paid them and took his money back. I just think he was robbing people.
So basically, he's just a shithead.
I mean, yeah, you could say that. And as far as Jason goes, I know nothing about him, and I didn't want to include too much about him because there's no part of him that's part of a serial killer. If anything, he just, he got away with murder, but I don't even know enough of the story. I looked and looked and looked. I will say that the family members of the people who died were absolutely devastated when he got to walk out of jail. I did.
Well, and this one's a little bit different too because he's a serial killer by definition.
Yeah.
But I mean, even the two women he killed the same way,
right.
Prostitutes took them out, but then two more added on just because of a situation. So
right.
It's like
it's not.
You've
that's
got
what I'm
four
saying.
victims, but they're not.
He's
they're
a
not
serial
what you
killer,
see
right?
As a serial killer.
He's definitionally a serial killer because he killed two or more people with a cooling off period. But I wouldn't classify him as a typical serial killer that we see that it like looks to kill,
right.
Enjoys killing. We always feel like serial killers enjoy to kill. I don't know if he necessarily enjoyed killing. I think he killed so that he wouldn't get caught doing things. I mean, hello, he literally shot those police officers so they would not arrest him.
Yeah, killing based on opportunity.
Yeah, opportunity. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. But it's still a serial killer because, again, the definition is killing two or more people with cooling off period. And a couple of years in between is cooling off. So, and again, there is a couple other women out there and cases out there that he is suspected of, but they have not been able to link him in any sort of way.
Right.
That's it. That's all I got.
There it is.
So, if you enjoy listening to the things that we say, and if you enjoy listening to us talk about serial killers, then make sure that you are following us. And if you are already following us, share us with anybody else that you think might actually want to hear us tell you stories. We're just going to say shameless plug for our Patreon. If you are somebody who listens to your podcast through Patreon, you can find us on Patreon. And if you are not somebody who listens through Patreon, there is a link in our show notes that brings you straight to our Patreon page where you can click on it and start to follow us on Patreon. All of the episodes on Patreon are free for now. I mean, they will. That sounded
They
terrible.
will always
They
be
will
free.
always be free.
But then there will be another
We are
version.
going to be working on bonus episodes, but we are waiting until we get done with this move and get ourselves situated. But we will have some bonus episodes. We also have some other fun things coming up that we're looking into, like merch ideas and things like that, to kind of expand the podcast since we've been doing this for a couple of years. And we do have quite a bit of you who like us.
Yeah.
You like us.
You
And
really
so
like us.
we are going to start adding those things in the future, but I'm just going to continue to tell you that if you want to have input or talk to us, Patreon is one of the best ways to do it, because if you follow us, you can type messages to us. You can comment on our actual pages, and we can converse back and forth, and it'll be a good time for anybody. So that is... If you don't even want to click the link, all you have to do is patreon.com/fatal blend, one word, and that will take you right to our Patreon page. But you do have to be 18 or older. And if you are under 18 and listening to this, shame on you. You should not be. But if you are, you do have to be 18 or older, because we like to cuss. And so we had to and we talk about some gruesome ass shit, and we had to make sure that youngins are not getting on our Patreon page.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't really have anything else to tell you other than thank you so much for listening to us tell you the story about Bandali Debs, the serial killer who's kind of like a serial killer, but not really a serial killer, but kind of is, because he really kind of is, but not.
So, yeah, take that.
Until next week. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Remember to lock your doors and bar your windows. Until next time.